guys, to another video on the Unchained channel. Today we are talking about general strategies for multiplayer and the biggest basics that you need to keep in mind to be successful, especially for beginners. My name is Nance, and on my side there is the greatest Edain gamer of all time.
Hello. I am Pyro,
Neat.
and we will take a deep dive into beginner-friendly tips and tricks and what is especially important for 1v1 gameplay.
Yes. Okay, so our first tip, 1v1 is like the standard mode, the classic, the Champions Duel. And actually our first tip is they might sound very plain or simple, the tips, but it goes a long way. And the first tip is to build units. It's as simple as that. You need to have your barracks permanently recruiting units, and so that you can actually play on the map and have more than your enemy in the best case.
Yes, especially permanently is the key word. When you start your match, you most of the times, not always, but you build a barracks, and then if it's finished, then you build units. And in most cases, if you don't run into a CP block, then always at any moment while you are playing, there should be some kind of units produced in the barracks. Normally at the beginning you go for swordsmen and pikes to get the map, creep, and defend yourself against enemy cavalry. And you should always do that. And many, especially new players, forget that and just don't build that many units, or think that building many units is only for some factions.
Yeah.
But that's important for every faction.
Yeah, there is the keyword which is called spam that a lot of people like to spread around. And actually this is like a thing you need to do on every faction to be kind of successful is to spam units to keep your barracks under production permanently. Especially the first 500 CP, you need to run the barracks permanently. Don't have any idle times, and keep checking it if it is really producing permanently. That's really important. That's the first point. Do you have anything else to say about it?
Not really, just produce units constantly.
Yeah. Okay. Then the second point is once you have this many troops, you obviously all have to use them as efficiently as possible. And this is the second tip. Use your troops efficiently. And this goes a long way. At the start, you always start with two battalions of swords, most likely. And you don't want to creep with both battalions at the same time. You normally want to split them to be as effective as you can. Then you also want to creep the right creeps with your right battalion. So you don't want to creep orcs with spare battalions or die to the troll with swords. And it's not only about creeping. When you're fighting, you also want your troops to be permanently active, to be as efficient as you can. So you don't want them to stand around.
Yeah, so this point is more about the micro of units, or also the macro, so where you send your units that you build. I think it's always important and a bit underrated to keep track of where your units are and where your enemy units are and how many, so that you, in normal cases, you have like 3 or 4 or maybe 2, depends on the map, like stations where you fight over settlements, and where you always have to evaluate if you win those fights or lose, and then push or are able to push or to retreat. And it's important always to keep this in mind, and yeah, to send new units, and yeah, really to pressure if you have the chance to do, and not just standing around with units,
Yeah.
which you only should do if you are like regenerating with banner carriers. But if you aren't doing that, then your units always should do something like fight, and if the enemy army is too strong so that you can't win, then that's also an important point. Don't take any fights that you might lose. Then just don't fight and just go harass, split your units, and yeah, send your single battalions to enemy farms, so that he is also forced to split, and then his army isn't that strong anymore. Then you can also fight at some point again.
Yeah. Always try to get the best out of your troops. So our third point is what you already said, that you don't want to lose troops, no matter the case. In Edain, most of the units actually have the same movement speed, so you can just, whenever you take a bad fight or you think the enemy is stronger, you can just right-click them away to your own base or to wherever, so that you don't lose them, and have them for anything else. Even if you are weaker, you can still harass your opponent and force them to split, as you just said. Or what do you think?
Yeah, I think you said everything. So maybe one point for that, because many new players tend to have a problem with like knowing if they win a fight or lose, which can be a bit complicated because there are many different factions and units in Edan. But actually, all units not only have the same speed as you said, but also if they have are like from the same unit tier and the same unit type, so like swordsman and then normal, elite, or heroic, all those have the same stats or pretty similar stats. So that's like normal swordsman or elite swordsman, independently of from which faction they are really strong. So yeah, this helps to know if you're winning a fight or losing, and most of the times it's actually rather simple to see if the enemy has more units, and if that's the case, then many times it means he will win. But of course, especially in mid and late game, stronger units like elite and heroic units come into play, and heroes, and this takes a bit more know-how in Edain. But yeah, like this classification and systemization in Edan is good to know, to know which fights to take, especially at the beginning, where you have many encounters where you have like one swordsman battalion and against another, and or two with two, and something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, if you see an encounter that you don't lose, don't engage. Your honor is not on the line. Actually, play like a pussy if you want to win often. And yeah, obviously there are some spells or units like fast units like the wolves that force you to fight, or spells where you knock or slow enemies. But even then, when you're slow, like the chasing and the pathing in Edan is not that brilliant, and you can get away with a scratch very often.
Yeah, overall, just retreating or just moving away, not taking the fight, doesn't lose you anything. And if you do and you lose, then you lose very much. So it's always safer to just not fight in many cases. So rather don't fight than fight.
Yes. Okay, this was already our third point. Now to our fourth. Spend your money. Yeah, when we observe players on the Discord, we often see that new players like to hoard a lot of money for rough times or whatever. But especially at the start, you really want to track your resources that they are permanently on zero. You need to spend them on troops or buildings to generate more resources, or different buildings so you can generate more unit types. Yeah, always go ahead and spend your money, invest them to get even more money.
Yeah, like always, you shouldn't have any like more than a few hundred resources normally. Besides, if you are like waiting for enough resources for an upgrade or a hero, of course. But especially in the like early game and mid game, where many games are decided, because Edain is a game that snowballs pretty heavily. You really need to keep track of spending your resources, and like for a pretty simple build order, you can always go. You can just take 2 outside farms, build 1 barracks, which usually costs 300, and build 1 battalion out of it, and then you spend your like start resources of 1,000, and then after that you can it's
And the
always
scout
nice
hero
to have
as well,
a scout hero. Yes, true. And then it's always nice to rather quickly get a second military building
like a
to gain
stable.
access to stable or archery range or some kind of monster thing to get monsters that requires the enemy to get other unit types to counter your
Yeah,
units. So spending your money first on military most of the times. You can go for an eco heavy strategy, but most of the cases it's better to spend on units and military. And if you have done that, just always build an internal eco building for 400 if you have so many resources. And
yeah,
if you're already doing that, then it's you are in a pretty good state in 1v1.
yes. So in the late game, it's more about being creative and taking and shining with micro, especially. But in the early game, the those are a lot of basics to consider when you start on your Edain journey, the multiplayer journey. Then there's another thing to say that this game genre is actually RTS, not just a strategy. It's real-time strategy. So that means that you're basically under pressure that you permanently can do even more on your map than you already do. And yeah, that means go ahead, be as quick as you can, and don't look at your units. And yeah, well, looking at your units if you win is fine. It's fun, but yeah, you need to be
Doesn't win
fast.
your games. Move your mouse quickly.
Yeah,
Like a key like rule you can follow for the early and mid game, as Nance already said. In the late game, it's a bit different because it's mostly only army versus army fight. Then like only one army, you don't split that much, and heroes and spells are very important, which is not that much the case before. Just like don't be on the same camera spot for more than 5 seconds, because you can always do something on like in your base or with other units on another spot on the map and so on. And don't get overconfident if you're winning on one side a fight, because that means that you're probably losing on the other side.
yeah. It's actually like a rule, a community rule. If you
Yeah.
win on one side, you lose on the other most of the time. Yeah. Are there more things to be said?
Yeah, maybe regarding unit diversity,
Yeah.
I already touched on it a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, very important in Edain Unchained to have unit diversity, which means that you get other unit types that have other counter mechanics, so that are good against other units and are countered by other units that are not already on the field.
Yeah.
So the simplest example is of course cavalry. Like if the enemy is like you build many swordsmen and pikes, these are countered pretty good by archers, especially pikes. So your response to that would be to build cavalry or monsters to counter the archers, and then the enemy has to build more pikes to counter that, and so on. And it's always better if you have many different kinds of units. That requires the enemy to have also many different kinds of units to counter those units. Good example is like Angmar, where you can have Barrow Wights early on and Wolf Riders, where the enemy needs archers to counter Barrow Wights because they heal themselves in melee combat and are pretty strong against melee units. And then, because you know that your enemy builds archers against Barrow Wights, you build Wolf Riders to counter these archers, and that can win you the game pretty quickly as Angmar, if that works and requires equally good and diverse units from your enemy. So yeah, unit diversity is really important.
You can also catch your enemy off guard, like when you get your cavalry really early and they don't have pikes on every spot of the map to safeguard their troops. You can get a few easy kills. And in big fights, having like a composition that is quite diverse also helps you. For example, if you have archers and cavalry, you can always shoot out the enemy pikes, which receive extra damage by enemy archers. And when they are dead, you can just trample the rest with your cavalry and deal extreme damage because there's no threat to them anymore in the enemy camp. Yeah.
Yeah, there's also like a small point, like in most of the cases, just always have pikes in your army. Because even if your enemy doesn't build regular cav, many spellbooks or hero abilities offer summoning units that are cavalry, and it often happens with new players that they just don't build any pikes, or maybe like 1 battalion for 10 battalions of archers, and then like one or 2 battalions of cavalry come and kill the whole army, and then the whole army is dead because you can't escape from fast cav. So yeah, just keep your pikes in your army and enough most of the times and every spot of the map.
Yeah. Okay. Then I think we're done for today. This was like our first guide for our guide series. More videos to come, more in depth for every faction. This is like a general thing today. I hope you could learn something, and yeah, see you
Yeah, we
soon.
will show these tips more in detail on specific gameplays, specific rounds,
Yeah,
because yeah, this was a bit
generic without any backup.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes, but these are like it sounds simple, but are really the most important thing and make up like 80 to 90% of the quality of or the strength of an Edain player.
yeah.
These aspects that don't depend on the faction you play are just like being fast on the map and so on. It's just key to play good.
Okay. Yeah, and if you have any further questions that we didn't answer you today or anything else, you can join our Discord, the Edan Discord in the community, which is linked below. You can also find online partners there to play with or against. We always play via the all-in-one launcher, which provides an easy download as well, and easy switches to other mods if you want to try them out. And if you want to check out more or read more about Edain Unchained, then go ahead and check out our mod TB, which is linked below. Cairo did do some great articles for the latest version 4.0.
Yeah, and you can always just ask things or
Yeah.
getting to know things on the Discord server. We are pretty active in voice chats and also the text chats of the Unchained area, so feel free to ask for tips or questions or report bugs and so on.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Then see you next time.
Bye.